we want? When do we want it? When do we want it? When do we want it? Hug the person next to you, tell them you love them. Change Choir, give them a big hand. Yeah. Give them a big hand. Yeah. Certainly we're happy to be with you another Saturday morning at the Saturday Action Rally of National Action Network to report to you our work and where the action is for you that are here live in the House of Justice, 106 West 145th Street in the village of Harlem, and you that are listening live on 1190 WLIB AM in New York or watching on live stream on nationalactionnetwork.net, or you that are going to be joining us at 10 o'clock on our international broadcast on Impact Television. We're grateful to God to be here another Saturday where the action is. Amen. Give a hand to our presider, Attorney Michael Hardy, and our inspirational speaker of this morning, Reverend Dr. Barry Miller of Abyssinian Baptist Church in Newark. Talk about God had a plan. And I'm glad that he preached that and gave us that inspiration. I hope he enjoyed it because he won't be back for a while. I heard people hollering and screaming in here. So I want him to know you pastored Abyssinia. You just supposed to inspire us. You ain't supposed to do but so good. Give him another hand. A little Nan history is that when many years ago, I guess around over 20 years ago, there was 4 young men that left Harlem, headed down the New Jersey Turnpike, and they were headed to do a basketball tournament, and they were stopped by New Jersey troopers who shot the 4 young men. They survived. And it became known as the New Jersey 4 case. That Saturday morning, one of the four young men's fathers came to the Saturday Action Rally. That's one of the reasons why we have Saturday rallies in the tradition started under SCLC, Dr. King. I learned it from Reverend William Jones, who I was youth director of Breadbasket, New York, and under he and Reverend Jesse Jackson, is that people know they can come on Saturday morning to try to get help and to try to be involved. So one of their fathers came that Saturday and said that he wanted to see me, and someone, this was at the original House of Justice on 125th and Madison, and we had someone from our crisis department talking to him, and as I came out of the office to head to the stage to speak, he was standing there weeping and said, "Reverend Al, I really need to see you." And the person that was helping him said, "I'm helping you." And he kept crying, and it just bothered me to see a man like that cry. And I said, "What's the problem?" And he told me the troopers shot my son last night and shot two others, and they were good kids. They didn't do anything wrong. And I need you to help to really get justice and fairness for them. They're in the hospital in southern New Jersey. And I told him, I said, "Well, do you know if they had any drugs in the car, guns in the car?" He said, "No." I said, "How do you know? You wasn't there." He said, "I know my son." And this is being Father's Day weekend is a good thing to know. There's some men stand up for their children. There's some fathers that didn't abandon their children. And he stood up for his son. And because of his standing up so firmly and believing in his son, I said, I'll tell you what, I don't know whether your son is right or wrong. I don't know if they're going to find drugs in his car or guns or what. But if you believe in them, I'm going to call for an investigation. I said, I'm preaching in Newark in the morning. And if you meet me there with the one that didn't get shot, I will hold a press conference and call for justice. And that's how the case started. Where I held the press conference was at Abyssinian Baptist Church in Newark. As God would have it, I was preaching for Abyssinian that morning. And we started the New Jersey 4 case from Abyssinian Baptist in Newark, New Jersey. Later we got Johnny Cochran involved, and that was the case that really brought to the American lexicon the phrase of racial profiling. Because there were many groups, legal groups and all, that were fighting these cases, but this made it public that they were just stopping blacks at a disproportionate number on the turnpike. That's where the expression "driving while black" started. With those 4 young boys, they weren't little, but they were young teenagers. And the case started at Abyssinian Baptist Church. So we have a direct link to that church, and we are grateful to have the choir with us and Pastor Barry Miller. Give him another hand. In fact, as I do every Father's Day, I'll be in Newark tomorrow morning preaching at Metropolitan Baptist for our national board member, Reverend David Jefferson. And all of you that are listening to me, meet me at Metropolitan. I'll be preaching the 9 o'clock service in Newark and Metropolitan. And this afternoon, I'm going to Westbury, New York, to preach for Eastern Baptist Association's luncheon. So we working hard on Father's Day weekend. I ask for your prayers for our national field director, Reverend DeVest Toon, who called me last night, and his mother in Charlotte, North Carolina, lost everything in a fire. And everything but the clothes on her back, gone. And he's on his way to Charlotte, and we certainly are in prayer for the family. Reverend DeVest Toon been with us about 25 years and helped raise Minister Marshall and others around here and his mother. On a brighter note, though, we want to give birthday greetings. Yesterday was the birthday of the chairman of our board, Reverend W. Franklin Richardson. Senior pastor of Grace Baptist Church, and he's been a great community pillar, a great national leader, the Conference of Black Churches, as well as chairman of the board of National Action Network. He's been a minister extraordinaire, and we celebrated his birthday. We posted it on all our social media. I called him all day, and his phone went to a voicemail. I don't know if it's because he got too old to turn it on or he's traveling, but I'm sure that I'm said on the radio, somebody gonna call him and tell him, and he'll be calling me, straightening me out when I get off the air. But give a birthday shout out to Reverend Dr. W. Franklin Richardson. Let me share with you that I want you to not take these days for granted, that we are in the midst of all this celebratory stuff, and all of these holidays have just been reduced to commercial exploitation. The greatest gift you can give your father is to call your father and say Happy Father's Day, and to share some kind of bonding no matter what you've been through. All of the gifts, all of the flowers and all of that is well and good, but it is the bonding that we need restored in our community. We all have had different experiences, and I will always share mine. But at the end of the day, we need to understand that we all need to worship the God that made us all by strengthening the bonds that he connected us to. And I'm glad that my daughters work with me. I did not encourage them or choose for them to be activists. They did that on their own, but we have worked together as well as been fathers and daughters. And nothing gives a father more joy and more sense of fulfillment than to have a relationship with their offspring. Now, you're going to hurt your offspring, and they're going to hurt you. But let's welcome, we're joined live now on Impact Television. Come on, welcome the Impact family. But the mutual hurt is minimal to the bonding that we need, because no matter what my father did or somebody else did to you, you would not have gotten here without them. And every father in the black community is not a walk-away or abandoning father. There are some good fathers. There are some fathers that did the right thing. There's some fathers that stood by their families. Even if their families couldn't stay together, they still did the right thing. So let's wish all of our fathers in our community a great Happy Father's Day. I want to recognize the presence of Miss Gwen Carr, mother of Eric Garner, with us. Give her a hand. And y'all, we have been watching with great joy that finally they're telling the true story of what happened with the Central Park Five. And this brilliant director, Ava DuVernay, who humanized it, talked about what happened to the family and what happened to these 5 young men that she was able to put in human terms where you could feel it in this documentary, as well as a docudrama. And last week I talked a little about it, and I was very happy that the when I got off the stage, she had tweeted about how when Corey Weiss, one of the 5, who served more time than any of the others because he was tried as an adult, did 13 years before finally one young man in jail inadvertently told his cellmate that he did it. The cellmate told on him because he was trying to get favor, and they matched the DNA with this young man and found out he was the one that did it. Now, the thing a lot of people miss about that is that they knew that the semen they had at the scene didn't fit the file. So why did they prosecute them for rape? They knew they didn't do it. Well, they did some of it, they come in there for trouble. Well, you didn't indict them for trouble. You indicted and convicted them and coerced them into confessions for rape when you knew that the DNA evidence was not there. And Kerry Weiss went to jail and did over 13 years on something that he did not do. And aside from losing your freedom, is that the mental anguish, the anxiety of laying in a cell every night knowing that you did not do what you lay in there for is enough to drive you crazy. But somehow God brought them 5 boys through. And somehow, if you just hold on a little while, Reverend Miller, that you'll get the victory at the end. Who would have ever thought when we were outside in front of that court 30 years ago and they called us names, said I was against the white lady that was viciously raped, and there are all kinds of character assassinations they tried. No one ever thought that some 30 years later that Hollywood would come out and tell the story. And when Kerry Weiss got out of jail, they still wouldn't look out for them boys. Fought to get them a lawsuit and a settlement. And as they were trying to do that, Kerry couldn't get a job, because where you going when all of the best years of your life you in jail? Had no skills of his own because he was robbed of that. And he worked here over 3 years until he got a settlement. But unlike many others, he never forgot National Action Network. He's here every Saturday morning. Stand up, Kerry Weiss, Central Park 5. Now I'm going to tell y'all something about how voting matters. When they sued for damages, I want y'all to get this now, and I know some of the press listens to the broadcast. They refused, the city of New York refused to settle the case. Is that right? When de Blasio came in, one of the things we asked the mayoral candidates on this stage when they were running is, if you become mayor, will you deal with the Central Park case? Did we not, Attorney Hardy? And de Blasio committed he would, the others did, and it was Bill de Blasio's administration that settled the case. I ain't gonna tell y'all how much money has been in the papers, but they settled the case. The lawyer, though, one of the attorneys that were involved in the case is one of the lawyers that's representing Gwen and the Garner family right now. So it ain't no big circle about this thing. Now, I'm not saying that to support de Blasio for president. I'm telling you that we couldn't get Bloomberg to do it, but de Blasio did. And it's the same lawyers fighting for Ghana right now. Hello? That's why I see those that just jump up and talk without knowing what they're talking about. Well, vote don't matter. Well, on some things it does. And I want whatever I can get. If I can't get it all, I want some until I can get the rest. Now, while I'm going down that street, there was some folk asked me this week, reporter, Rev Mal, you against them banning menthol cigarettes in New York? They were going to have a vote on this in the city council. I said, we had a town hall meeting right here. Some of y'all were here. And our position was that until you can tell us what you're going to do if they ban the cigarettes, about those that are going to sell loosies, that we can't support it because it is going to force the black market of selling loosies, which is what happened with Eric Garner. And until you tell me you are not going to criminalize them, why would we force a situation that has unintended consequences? Well, Red Mal, y'all just saying that because tobacco companies support y'all's convention and all that. They've been supporting our convention for 25 years. There wasn't no ban. First of all, if it's a health issue, I agree with you that smoking is bad, even though some smoke. But then why are you trying to ban all cigarettes? If it's a health issue, we should get rid of it. So in other words, the guys that smoke Marlboros and whatever it is, I ain't a cigarette smoker. They all right. But you and I know, because I live on the ground. I ain't one of these health elitists running around here calling folk names. On the ground, you and I know if they ban menthols today, y'all still gonna go find a way to get your Cools and Newports. So I wanna know, are you going to have police arrest them or fine them? And if they get a certain amount of tickets, they can then arrest them. Well, that's what happened to Eric Garner. Why in a city that has yet to show us that they will at least fire Pantiello, would I agree to creating other scenes like that? Don't try to cheapen this to some donations we always got. Deal with the fact that this city has put us in a position where we cannot trust how they would handle dealing with something like that. If you want to ban it, put in the legislation criminal justice boundaries that you cannot criminalize those that will deal with this, smoking it or selling it, and that chokeholds are illegal. You want to ban something, ban chokeholds by New York City police by law. All this foolishness, you know, some of these civil rights groups, Reverend Allen, them get money. No. I never took the position until Eric Garner happened. The reason, if you watch the tape, the reason they came up on Eric had loosies in front of the store. I'm not going with that. They can talk about, well, we don't believe that's going to happen. It already happened. And y'all ain't fired this man, and the man them should have fired him. We didn't need a trial. Fire him because he violated police policy. You would not enforce police policy. Now you want to come with something else? I'm not supporting anything till we know how y'all are going to conduct your behavior in the city of New York. Now put that in the newspaper. I think that, see, the problem with a lot of these folk, and y'all hear me all the time on MSNBC talk about these liberal, latte liberals. You know, these these, guys, they smart in everybody, but they got money. They sip lattes and talk intellectual talk. They ain't on the ground. They don't talk to regular people. They wouldn't have a Saturday morning rally in Harlem, wouldn't even come. But they want to speak for people that they don't speak to. The day of the black church is over. Black church service is real people on the ground. The grassroots lumping proletariat that you talk for, that's who's in the black church. But because we are not as polished as you and acceptable as you, and we remind you who you trying to run away from being. I'm a proud product of the black church, where we wave our hands and holler and get emotional, because that's how we survived slavery and the back of the bus and drinking from the Lord of Fountain. You might be ashamed of how we got through. I'm proud of how we got through. For we knew what therapy was. We had Friday night prayer meeting. For we knew how to lay on the couch. We knew how to get on our knees. I know how we got this far. But you done got too sophisticated now. You done got too high and mighty now. Grandma didn't have a psychiatrist. Grandma had a hymn book. And she made it through. And I'm not against psychiatrists now, but don't scorn how we got this far. And that is what we've got to deal with in our community. And in this, ain't nothing blacker than the black church. It's the first institution that we owned, that we were in charge of, that we gave orders. Reason why I grew up, Pastor Miller, with self-esteem is by the time I grew up, a boy preacher started preaching. Bishop Washington licensed me when I was a young boy. By the time I became of age to understand the corporate world, I was used to watching black folk running their own multi-million-dollar church. So you couldn't tell me we was inferior, because I saw us run something. Some of y'all that always grew up watching other folk in charge, I knew we was in charge. So therefore, when I started having to deal with people in the white community, they couldn't tell me they was that smart and that they knew how to run things we didn't know how to run. Because I saw it for myself. I was raised in it, in a black church, and there was nothing backward about us. It was something forward about people that came out of the jaws of Jim Crow and built multi-million-dollar ministries in the 50s and the 60s. It took geniuses to do that. That's why they tried to break the black church. That's why they went after the National Baptist Convention. That's why they went after, because that was our power. Well, we need to learn how. You hear a lot of these people today call my radio show. We need to learn how to pool our money together. We weren't doing that in the black church. Where do you think black banks started? Where do you think black colleges started? That was the foundation. But they tricked you into being against what made you in the first place. We fought get you in the white schools, and they sent you back with a theory on condemning what sent you there in the first place. We didn't send you over there to get a degree in betrayal. We sent you to get some kind of tools to come back and build a community. But you come back with a negative analysis of what sent you there in the first place. I'm now a PhD, and I'm going to write my thesis on the death of the black church. No, you should write your thesis on the sellout of the Negro intellectual. Because it was Sister Gloria in the Celestial Choir and Brother James at YPWW that sent your ungrateful behind to get your PhD. With the little scholarship programs in the black church. But somehow you got in the dormitory and forgot who you were and thought you were something that you wasn't. And then later on, when they call you the N-word, you run back down to National Action Network and others and want somebody to fight for you. When we told you where you was going in the first place. That's how we end up lost and end up with a president to show you how lost you got. Just in case you forget, Trump will come every day and show you something else. Just in case you wasn't paying attention, I got another one for you. Man sit up on international television the other night saying ain't nothing wrong with taking information from foreign countries. Yes, he did. Call the FBI for what? This is the president now. But this is who he was. I was talking to some people last night about reparations, and they started hearings this week. I'm having Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee, who's in that committee, who's put H.R. 40 in to begin the reparations commission. She's on my show today, 5 o'clock on MSNBC, my Politics Nation with Al Sharpton. And we were talking about it last night, some friends of mine. And what I was telling them is that when you really look at what Trump is doing, it is exposing you that the only thing they could sell was white supremacy. When you go in many of these pockets of low economic areas in the white community, what they historically did since slavery days. Now, they don't have much. They got an opioid scandal going on with even white youngsters. Income gap there, wages down. And the way they justify and get around it is they say to them, don't worry, at least you're not black. That's how they sell themselves. Is that they give them some sense of superiority, that they're not black, so that they won't complain about that they're exploiting them. Watch that now. Trump promised the coal industry was coming back. Ain't happening. He gonna do this and that for the coal miners. Ain't happening. He gonna do this and that for the farmers. Started trade wars that hurt the farmers to where he had to give emergency funds to the farmers. But at least you ain't black. They gotta have something to pivot off of. And if poor whites and blacks and Latinos ever got together, it would turn the whole thing around. But as long as they could play one against the other and create enemies between each other. I spoke on Thursday in Las Vegas for the National Convention for What Are the Black Men, and the comedian George Wallace came to the set. Gwen Carter, he told the joke, talking about division. He said, little boy was playing in his house, little black boy playing in the house, and took a sack of flour and poured it all over. Ran to his mother and said, Mama, look at me, I'm white. She said, boy, if you don't get that stuff off you, I'm gonna spank you. Go show your father. He ran in the other room, Daddy, Daddy, look at me, I'm white. Boy, if you don't get that off you, I'm gonna spank you. Go show your grandmother. He went and showed Grandma, Grandma, look at me, I'm white. She said, after all we've been through, you want to be white? If you don't get that off you, I'm going to spank you. He ran through the living room and Grandpa looked at him. He said, what are you crying about? He said, I ain't been white for 10 minutes and I don't like you Negroes either. They trained us to dislike and fight each other.
That's the first response.
Because we don't understand they're exploiting everybody to feed the whole. And that's what we need to deal with. This whole reparations question is a question of repairing damage done. It ain't about begging for nothing that's why they want a handout. It's about paying for the hands you used. Let me say that as we look at Father's Day, many of us have had the results and residue of the historic breakdown of the black family. And this is not to excuse the behavior. It's to put it in context. Black men ought to take care of their children. Black men ought to be responsible. And there are many black men that are. But let us have the context that we understand the breakdown and where it started. In slavery, black men were not allowed to marry their own wife. They were not allowed to name their children after them. And in fact, they tried to make sure they separated the wife and the husband and the children from the parents, because they did not want the family bond together. Then many black women were violated sexually by their masters, and the man couldn't do anything about it. You imagine you're a woman and being violated, and you can't call the law because the law was on the side of your raper. And you sitting there knowing your wife is being violated and there's nothing you can do about it. And that is only 3 or 4 generations ago. Y'all read the story in the paper when they come. My great-grandfather was a slave in South Carolina. Well, that meant he could not stand up for my great-grandmother. That is my daddy's grandfather. So it will take generational effort to undo what you did to us for generations. It's 400th anniversary this year of blacks being brought as slaves. That right? We were not given Emancipation Proclamation to 1863. That right? So from 1619 to 1863, we had no rights anyone had to respect. We could not have a family by law. We were named after our masters and our mothers, sisters, and daughters was at the mercy of slave masters. Is that right? For almost 300 years. Now in 100 years you want us to turn all of that around after it was ingrained and enforced by law. And they're going to sit around writing books about what happened to the black family. History happened to the black family. Now our job is to restore it. Not use it as an excuse, but to restore it. But in order to restore it, you got to know where you're starting. You're starting from the systemic, racist, white supremacist destruction of something that should have never been destroyed. Black men had to fight to be men. Reduced to boys. Reduced to nothing. Because some had to make you less in order for them to feel like they were more. And we have to rebuild our men. That's why I don't care what kind of daddy you got. Wish him a happy Father's Day. If he survived, if he tried, even if he failed, yes, he might have broke your heart, but he was broken down and maybe had no way of knowing what to do, but somehow made it through anyhow. Wish him a happy Father's Day tomorrow. And then recapture the greatness of who we are. One of the biggest tricks, I say this all the time, Attorney Hardy will tell you, is that when they sever us from our history, one of the biggest tricks I've seen is where they have tried now to convince millennials that it all is about them and don't connect to nothing before them. Because that robs you of your destiny. If you don't know you're connected to greatness, you will settle for less than what you were brought here to continue. Doesn't mean that you imitate what was ahead of you. It means you continue in your generation the greatness and the upward spiral of them before you. But if you don't know what was before you, and you don't know therefore the obligation and expectation of continuing excellence. If you don't know that Garvey and Malcolm and Adam Powell walk these streets, then you let people gentrify you out of the neighborhood, because you don't see it as landmarks. You see it as somewhere to get out of rather than somewhere to preserve and build. Which brings me right back to the black church. The institution lasted longer than the pastor and lasted longer than the choir director. Because the word's supposed to stand. And that's in the Bible. That's why everybody in the Bible that God used always reminded you they came in the name of what preceded them. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Every prophet said in the name of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Didn't come and say, I'm the new thing, this is my time now. No, I am a continuation. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I manifest the same strength and glory of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now watch this. Even Jesus, I'm going to tell you this and let you go. Even Jesus, when he got to a certain point, the Bible says he went up on the mountain. And John and Peter was with him. Is that not right? Yes, sir. And they went and they called it a mountain of transfiguration. Yes, sir. I want y'all young, only one got the anointing kind of folk watching me to get this. Y'all that condemn the old school church. Jesus, God's son, went on the mountain of transfiguration. His disciples, the Bible said, fell into a deep sleep, and when they awakened, they saw him on the mountain, and that he had transfigured. That's what Mountain of Transfiguration meant. He had transfigured and was talking to Moses and Elijah.
Yes, sir.
Is that not the book?
Yes, sir.
If Jesus had to connect to Moses and Elijah, and he was God's son, then who are you not to connect to what preceded you? Even Jesus checked in with who preceded him. Why did he proceed to connect in with Moses and Elijah? Because Moses represented the law. Elijah represented the prophets. And even Jesus said, yes, I'm God's son. I can heal the sick. I can raise the dead. But I submit to Moses, the law, and the prophets that stood on the law. I didn't come to change the law. I come to fulfill the law. But here you come and think it all started with you. Wasn't no anointing till you got going. Couldn't nobody see nothing till your eyes got going. The whole world and they that were in it, we was all waiting on you. When Jesus submitted, the reason why there's a lesson there is if Jesus wasn't trying to give us that lesson, he'd have never let the disciples wake up and see Elijah and see Moses. So he must have wanted us to know it because he let them see it. So John wrote about it. And they wrote about it. He wanted us to see it. And when they began talking about it, that's when they disappeared. The lesson was that you must be connected. Because the reason why you got such anxiety now and frustration now is you not connected. Reason why you don't understand why you can't get out of your own way. You have no connection. I was out, like I told you, in Nevada this week to speak for the 100 black men. Got to a certain place in the airport and had my smartphone. Got the newest smartphone. It can do everything you could think of. But I couldn't get a connection at that part of the airport. I don't care how much you paid for it. I don't care how many things that it can do. You still need a connection to get through. The problem is you got a good instrument. You got gifts, you got talents, you got degrees, but you ain't got no connection. What good is an education without a connection? What good is a degree without a connection? What good is knowing everybody without a connection? Because you won't know what to do with what you got unless you connect it. Reverend Al, I don't know what's wrong with me. I do. You're unconnected. You did everything right, but you broke your connection. You trying to be everything but what you were born to be. I watch some folk, even in church services, Dr. Small, they don't even know how to pray. That's why Jesus put Lord's Prayer in the Bible, where you pray to God. A lot of y'all pray to God like God is waiting on you to tell him what to do rather than you asking God to show you what to do. I mean, listen to how y'all pray. Dear God, you be, a little cordial. Thank you for another day. Now look here. This is what I need. I want you to help give me some money and help pay my bills and help dry the tears out my eyes and help get the deodorant up under my arms and help kill my, little no good kids' bad attitude and help my husband come home. You get on your knees giving God instruction. That ain't how you pray. You should be praying to get instruction. You support the reason why grandma made it is grandma who had to sit in the back of the bus. Grandma who couldn't check in a hotel. Grandma who couldn't buy a cup of coffee at a 5 and dime store. Grandma who had to work in the cotton fields from sunrise to sundown. She didn't get on her knees and ask God for nothing. She get on her knees and say, have your own way, Lord. Have your own way. Why? Because she had the faith to believe that God would make a way, and somehow, somewhere, he'd make a way out of no way. You get on your knees with a wish list. Like God is your valet, waiting on you to order what you want. God created you for a purpose. God made you for a reason. And God will test you. Some of what you are going through, some of the anxiety and frustration you're going through right now is a test. Let me say this on Father's Day. Every man, every father that God used, he tested. The higher the place you want to go, the harder the test. You can't, I just did 4 commencements this season. You can't go and get a college degree on a junior high school test. You want a college degree, you got to pass a college exam. And a lot of y'all want God to raise you, but you want to pass low test. There was a man that had served God, did everything right, and then he decided to cash in his chips. That's some of y'all try to bargain with God. God, I was there, did this, that, the other, bless me, you owe me. You said I reap what I sowed, I sowed. So I want to chip in. Now, he decided to call in his chips. He had a child with his maidservant. Child was born. His wife had become barren, couldn't have no more children. And she became so upset and disturbed that he had this child and was begging God, how could he do this to her? And God said to Abraham that if I bless you, I want you to understand, I make young women infertile and can make old women fertile. But I'm going to test you. And he blessed Sarah, his wife, in her old age to have a child. And she had a baby, and they named him Isaac. Now you can imagine that meant everything to Abraham. Folk running around town talking about Abraham's supposed to be a great preacher. Done knocked up the maidservant. Imagine what they were talking about in the church. Finding out an old first lady pregnant now. Saved Abraham's marriage. Saved Abraham's standing in the community. Saved Abraham's pastoring. Little Isaac, who he had with his wife. And then it came time for sacrifice. And they went up to the mountain to do the sacrifice, where they give the lambs and the sheep and lay it out before God to sacrifice. And he got his crew together, little Isaac, and they went up to make sacrifice. And when they got up there, God said to Abraham, I don't want no sacrificial lamb this year. I want you to give me your son. The one that I blessed Sarah to have. The one that stabilized your leadership. The one that kept your standing in the church. The apple of your eye. I want you to sacrifice him. Abraham, I read the scriptures, several translations, didn't even grunt. He probably was brokenhearted. He probably was saying to himself, why would God do this to me? But he obeyed God. Took the little boy by the hand and took the woods and took what would make the fire and told his crew, y'all stay back here. Me and Isaac got to do this alone. And he went up further. And it got so bad and painful in the journey, Isaac looked up at his father. Isaac probably thought Daddy a little old, maybe get a little forgetful. He said, Daddy, I see the wood and I see the fire. But where is the lamb? We forgot the sacrifice. Abraham didn't have the heart to tell him he was the sacrifice. He just looked at his son and said, God will make a way. And he got up on the mountain and he took the rope and he took the wood and he tied his son down. And I can imagine Isaac kicking and screaming, saying, Daddy, what you doing? And after he had tied him and stabilized him, he reached for his sword to come back. And when he got ready to slay his own son, an angel came and said, don't kill that boy. It's only a test. God only wants to see if you'll give it all up, and he'll give it all to you. You want to be the father of many nations, you've got to be willing to give it all up. If you give it all up, God will give it all to you. I know it looks dark. I know it looks confusing. I know it looks cloudy. But just like Abraham told Isaac, I come to tell you this morning, the Lord will make a way. God will make a way. I can't worry about Trump. God will make a way. It's only a test. It's only a test. God is still on the throne. God got a plan. God got a plan. God got a plan. Everybody's singing. Everybody's singing.